Hello, everyone. I'm Sheeza Mohsin, and I'm so excited to bring this podcast interview to you that is very special to me for multiple reasons. Over the last 20 plus years as an executive coach, I've had the privilege of working alongside extraordinary leaders in boardrooms, in startups, and in community spaces. And what I've learned is that true leadership isn't about titles. It's about alignment. It's about courage. It's about who you are when no one is watching. And I've recently begun highlighting exceptional leaders that I encounter, individuals who are not just successful, but very, very deeply intentional. So today's leader spotlight is Kimia Penton, a Dallas-based corporate leader, a musician, a community advocate whose upcoming book, Power on Purpose, where authenticity becomes radical leadership, invites us to rethink what power truly means. Kimia, welcome.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm thrilled to spend this time with you.
I am so excited to talk to you about your book. This is so wonderful. And so I guess my first question, I'm very curious about that. What led you to use the word power? It's a very unique word. It has a lot attached to it. So tell me, why power? Why was that the right word for you, and why now?
Great question. I think that something I've reflected on for a long time. And it came from decades of minimizing my own voice, whether it was from cultural narratives or societal expectations, or just being that firstborn daughter and used to taking care of others and prioritizing others and minimizing and diminishing. And realizing, in the process that I'm doing this and I'm constantly diminishing myself and I'm not walking in my own power, and we'll share that, power for me is really very kind of soft and encouraging and affirming and nurturing. Still, as I'm diminishing that and I'm not allowing myself to fully be seen, heard, and understood and step into my own power, I'm actually doing a disservice not only to myself, but to people around who can relate and to need to have that same courage and empowerment to walk in the lanes that they need to walk into. So it was really kind of a revealing and allowing myself to be fully seen for the first time in decades.
I have so many questions popping up in my head, and it's that if-then thing that comes up for us when we say, if I am soft, then I'm not powerful. And I want to ask you another question that's related more to authenticity, because I'm gonna hold this power question. You described authenticity not just as a value in your book, but as radical leadership. What makes authenticity radical in today's leadership landscape?
Yeah, so I consider authenticity as radical in the leadership space because we're often operating in systems that reward conformity. There's just a way that it's meant to be. You hear people talk about, well, that's just the politics of the space, or this is just how we operate or communicate here. But is that real? Somewhere under that professionalism mask, we've given up or forgotten or forsaken the authenticity in bringing our whole self to work. That doesn't mean be inappropriate or overshare or be abrasive and just say, hey, this is the way I am. But when you come in holistically with authenticity, with realness, in a way that inspires and builds trust, and you question things for just being the way they are, that is radical in some sense. And that takes a lot of courage, and that does take a lot of power.
That transition, Kimia, as you're talking, so refreshing, because as we were growing up in our leadership roles, being politically correct was so overemphasized that I think we kept distancing ourselves from authenticity. That's profound. Another thing that you speak about in your book is identity. How does understanding your identity transform the way you lead, especially as someone is shaping it as we grow in, and especially those of us who come from a multicultural background, those of us who are globetrotters who've lived in different countries, that was resonated with me because, you and I have had that exposure. So tell me a little bit about that.
The idea of identity, I think, and the way I describe it, it's kind of formed in early childhood, right? In the cultural narratives and what we see in the society we grow up with. And you kind of subconsciously take it on. Again, for me, it was being that firstborn oldest daughter in a very traditional Middle Eastern family. Growing up between worlds, many of us have moved a lot. So I've had 6 international moves, lived and worked on 3 continents, and had to kind of review this concept of identity. Over time, what I've realized is we are not one role or one title or something to be defined by others or a role to play. For me, it's a point I reached when I hit about 30 and realized that I'd become a master of performance for everyone else to please them and do what was expected of me at the cost of self-abandonment. I describe identity as something holistic. If you attach too much of your identity to one title, whether it's daughter, whether it's mother, whether it's wife, whether it's leader, whether it's the job you hold for that season, right? And you just focus on one thing instead of nurturing yourself, identifying yourself holistically, you might operate from a place of fear that you have to do everything it takes to just maintain that. And if something happens and one of those roles shifts, then you have a huge crisis of identity, right? Your identity is who you are at your core, and it's what flows and manifests through each of those roles. The role is a container. The container might change, but the essence never does. So it's very freeing and it's very powerful to know who you are holistically, and that's what's going to flow in every role you're in, regardless of the title, regardless of the season of life that you're in.
Could you give an example of that? That's so beautiful and profound. And it's so easy for us, and especially for female leaders, to identify with these roles that you've just listed. So what would be an example of something that would be a part of our core?
Well, I'll give you two examples that were huge for me. First and foremost, when I first became a mother, it felt like such a gift because I'd waited to get there for so long, right? And it was very, very easy to wrap up my identity as solely in the role of motherhood and completely lose myself in whatever my children needed at the time. And I had to catch myself, Sheeza, and say, if I'm living through them and passing on that pressure for them, what am I doing to their identity? Right? They are then in return thinking that they have to please mom, right? So I had to do a shift and realize this is not my entire identity. This is a role I'm privileged and I'm blessed to play in supporting these incredible lives to who they want to become. So I had to take a shift of not taking that on too much. The other example I give, many of us took breaks from leadership and from roles to raise our families, or had a career transition or had a career change when I wanted to re-enter the job market. And I'd had a gap for a little while in my resume, and I was interviewing for positions and sharing my resume. I really was looked at like I didn't have any value because there were gaps in my resume. And I actually had some senior leaders and some from the HR profession look at me and say, "You're unhirable. You don't have anything to contribute. You've had a gap in your resume." And if I did not have a strong sense of self, an understanding and a peace with, I had intentionally taken time for that season, and now it was time for another season, their words could have damaged my sense of self and my identity.
That is so beautiful, because I work with a lot of women and men who go through career transitions. Because, we're no longer in that age where people have 30, 40-year-old careers with one company. As an example, you have to keep reinventing yourself because, times change so quickly. So walk us through your core framework. If someone were to follow your steps, what would that journey look like?
Yeah, thank you for asking about that, because it's really, I think the secret to life is really having the courage to be as real as possible with yourself. So the framework is really simple. It's just called the Real Framework, and it helps you identify what we call the real me in the center of the circle. And it just has 4 steps which go with real. And actually, I'll read it directly from the book. I call it a living cycle. And it's a series of journal prompts, because this is not Kimia telling you how to live your life. Right? I also don't want somebody to tell me how to live my life. This is a companion framework and journal prompts to help you sit with yourself, take the time and give yourself the time to focus on who you really are beneath the roles and what it is that you're here to accomplish, what gives you fulfillment, and then what helps you make the greatest impact. So the R in there is reclaim. That's bringing you awareness. Return to who you are beneath the roles. Find your power, not just the power in a title, that essence, right, that you never lose. The E is embody. That's where integrity comes in. You live your values in your daily behavior. That's what fuels you. You embody it once you become aware. And then A is alignment, align. That's where congruence comes in. So you go through a series of questions in the framework to adjust your choices to match your values and energy. And I emphasize a lot about pay attention to your energy. You know what drains you and what fuels you. You know. And then finally, L is lead. You put it all together. You express your power outward with that clarity. And that's how you make impact for yourself, for your family, for your close circle, and then globally. Now more than ever, you can have global impact because of all the tools and technology that we have.
I love it. And, of course, like you said, one has to sit with it and keep going back to it to really absorb it and see how it would show up in your life. But one of the things that I'm thinking of as you were talking about is power. And a lot of the leaders I work with, they become that because of the results they're able to achieve. Now, unfortunately, if we're good at something, we end up over functioning in that space. That leads to a lot of burnout. Any high achievers who are equating power with output, that leads to burnout. Talk to me about how, when you are inviting people to reframe that power, how is that reframe going to maybe help them protect themselves from burning out?
Yeah, it's really important, and we're seeing it more and more now, right? So the whole purpose of, I think, going through this framework and having the courage to be intentional about what you say yes to and what you say no to with healthy boundaries is about leading and serving from a place of overflow, not a place of depletion, where you feel like you have to say yes to everything. When you're living in alignment and you're prioritizing yourself, your well-being, your self-care, you're in tune, you're plugged into your intuition, you're being mindful about the way you move in the world, then you know instantly what to say yes to and what to say no to. And I'll give you an example. In the workplace, a lot of high achievers get burnt out because what happens is when you're known as the person to get results, you're asked to compensate for those who aren't. So we've often heard the statistic of, 20% of people carry the work for the other 80%. Why is that, right? And why does somebody else's poor performance suddenly become our emergency? When you're able to respond in authentic power in appropriate professional communication, you hold people accountable for what they're supposed to own, and you don't take it on. You take on what you're supposed to in alignment with the roles that are truly yours, and you healthily hold others accountable for what's supposed to be theirs. And if there are performance issues that need to be addressed, you have the courage to speak up in a way that builds up to address that issue and not shove it under the rug. It's about being real in every area and having focus and intention and doing things out of overflow, not depletion and obligation. You cannot operate that way.
It's so interesting because a lot of times, a lot of us struggle with that, right? Because that also means setting boundaries. And your book is inviting people to be able to do this softly, because a lot of times we are not able to do that without feeling like we're not being nice as we are facilitating that accountability to be transferring to people as it should be. So that's beautiful. I'm excited to get my hands on the book. I'm excited for others to read it. So tell me, when someone closes this book, what are you hoping has shifted inside for them?
Well, I'm hoping that readers will feel encouraged and they will know that they have some agency and a lot more power than they thought to define the life that they want, to take steps in the direction that they want to go to. And when I'm speaking about being real, I'm sharing a lot about myself in there and my journey, kind of from my perspective and narrative and the challenges I had of, I used to feel so guilty about boundaries. I used to feel so much pressure to say yes to and be a catch-all to things just because I could. And I used to just feel like doing those things would give me real belonging, but it doesn't. Just makes you somewhat of a doormat, to be honest. So I want to encourage people as they read through this of appreciate yourself, care for yourself, prioritize yourself, and realize the power and agency you have. As you nurture yourself and come in alignment with who you are, then you're giving in real and meaningful ways that also fuel you instead of deplete you.
I love it, Kimia. And one of the things that motivated me to do these interviews is a lot of times, when we see these, wonderful, successful people, I feel, you and I are fortunate enough to be surrounded with them. But the super successful ones, we find them far away. And what we don't notice is that there's so many just around us. We can touch them and we can reach them and we can learn so much from each other in that space. So a wrap-up question before I wrap up, I want to ask you, because I'm a big believer, and as I work with clients, is that in order to create space to learn new things, we have to unlearn something. So can you give us an example of something that was maybe a belief about leadership, and I call them blind loyalties to behaviors that are not serving us well anymore? What did you have to unlearn to create space for this beautiful model that you're now sharing with all of us through your book?
So many things I had to unlearn, which is why it's an entire chapter in my book, and I call them out somewhat embarrassingly, but it's been a journey. I'll give a work example that really transformed and allowed my career growth. I grew up with the belief that just be grateful for the job that you have, kind of settle, just clock in, clock out, be a hard worker, don't reach for more. The ideal job or a fulfilling job just isn't attainable. So just be grateful that someone picked you, that you have that employment. I was raised with that mindset. And the shift for me became when I realized, yes, I am grateful to be selected, but I also need to select the role and the organization. I need to believe in the vision and the mission. And the leader that I'm going to serve with also needs to value me and support my development and allow me to shine holistically. So when I started going into interviews with the mindset of, yes, you're getting to know me, but I'm also interviewing you for the right fit, with alignment and expecting good things for myself, I ended up being promoted 3 times in 5 years and exceeded my wildest dreams and expectations just because I had the courage to ask for more and was leading with alignment. And I wanted balance. I wanted giving and taking, receiving as I was giving, growth and learning. So that was something I had to unlearn of that the right role isn't attainable, that you can't achieve the things that you want, that's for other people and not for me. I would encourage folks who are listening, if there are any areas you're playing small or you're diminishing yourself, ask yourself why, whose voice is that you've taken on? And then just love on yourself and encourage yourself and say, why not me? Why can I not be the leader that I wanted?
I cannot wait for listeners to experience your work, to really read your book and get inspired from it. Thank you for modeling this leadership and for sharing your book with us. Kimia, can you please mention some important dates? Where can people buy your book? Where are some launch dates? Where can you be followed? All of that good stuff before we wrap.
Oh, sure, I will. And before I do that, I want to thank you for your tremendous work of empowerment and encouragement. You are always a ray of sunshine, and it's always a delight to be around inspiring women like you, and you're a treasure in my life. So thank you for everything that you do. It takes us collectively to be on this journey together. We're not an island and we can't do it alone. So much love for you and your work.
It is such a pleasure. I will tell you that working with people like you feeds my soul. So this is so selfish because I'm getting inspired and I'm absorbing everything that you're sharing. And I will tell you that you have no idea how many women and men you are inspiring just by speaking. Because I will tell you, I work with a very gifted population just like yourself. And as we get successful, Kimia, we become more and more isolated.
Oh, yeah.
There aren't those platforms. And for everyone listening who is feeling isolated, who is doubting themselves, you and I can let them know that they're not alone in this. And this is just another celebration of another amazing, amazing person. Thank you for that.
That's the whole point. It's my pleasure. I'll tell folks how to connect because similar to you, I'm all about community because I need it. We need it. We need to be able to reach out. So you can find me on my website, KimiaPenton.com. I'm very active on Instagram. I share a lot there, which is at Kimia Penton, which is on there. So you'll see that. And of course, for the music fans, my music under my name is on every streaming platform. It's all songwriting for empowerment and coaching. So I hope you enjoy that as well. The book itself is coming out on February 16th. On Amazon globally. Then about 2 weeks after that, it will be on all retail platforms. And then I wanted to celebrate this and have a good time with the community. So on February 21st at 3 p.m. at the NAC Theatre in Frisco, we are doing a red carpet, fun, all-out party with a DJ. Get dressed up, come and hang out. I'll do book signings. I'll do some singing. We'll do some dancing. I'll do a few readings and teach the framework. And we'll start building some meaningful community, some intentional, and I would say positive networking with intention, and have a great time. I'd love to see you. Come and join us.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to being there and celebrating with you. Thank you everyone for listening. Please join Kimia. I would highly recommend buying that book. It's available on Amazon, and looking forward to connecting with all of you more. Continue getting inspired. It is so important to continue being intentional with how you consume material that will grow your brain, that will increase those synaptic connections, that really, really will grow that positivity in our minds and in our life. Thank you so much for listening.